Well, if you haven't worked with arrays before, they're kind of a different animal. So if this is the first time, they're going to look a little confusing. So let's take a look at one small example of a single dimension array. And in this case, what we've got is a program where we create or dim an array, and we know that by the parentheses, and we're going to call it int num. This is just a name that we made up. And it's going to be an array of integers. Now, what we can do is that we can assign values to this array so that it already comes populated. Now, in the computer's memory, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, going to use a spreadsheet to describe the computer's memory. And a spreadsheet is a lot like a computer's memory because, say, each one of these cells contains a value, or it may be empty, or it may, as the program is running, you may have variables and you may store different things in here. You may have a string in this one. You may have an integer in this one, and so the as your program runs, what it will do is look in the computer's memory and find an empty location. And say if you create a variable, it will and store a value there. You may store it in this place, say right here. And in the computer's memory, each one of these locations has a specific address. And the address is a hexadecimal number. And of course, each one of these will be different so that each one of these memory locations will be unique. So for instance, this memory location may be F8A334 or something like that. So this is just an address or a location for this particular memory location in the computer's memory. Well, with arrays, what you do is that you block out a part of the computer's memory, and in this case, we've got, in this case, we say create an array, which is what we have right here, and let's call it int nums. So this whole from here to here is called int num, and and it's an array where we can only store integers. And we go ahead and store these 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 in this array. So they're all sequentially located, one right next to the other, and they're all the same data type. Okay, so if we have an array, what we can do is that now that we've created this is an object now. We've gone in and we've created an array, and we've called it int nums, and we can now say that this is an object, and now int nums has a property called length, which means it's the length or the number of values which are in this array, the number of locations which are in this array or elements. And in this case, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the length of int nums is 6. So since we're going to store it into a text box, we need to convert it into a string because text box is not a text box, but a label. A label only wants string, only wants a string. So we convert this integer number into a string and display it in this label, in the text portion of this label. And we can do the same thing with the method getUpperBound. And it starts and we send the argument 0. If it's a single dimension array, we always use 0. And we're going to add 1 to this. But with arrays are a little bit different. Now, if you look at your hand, how many fingers do you have? Most of us have 5 fingers, including the thumb. But to a computer, we only have 4 fingers. Now, the reason for that is because a computer starts counting at 0. So it would count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. So to us it would be 5, but to a computer it would be 4 because the computer starts counting at 0. So if we want the number of elements in here, the very first location that we've got, this 2, is really at location 0. And the next one would be at location 1. The next one would be at location 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the highest element would be 5 in this array. So to get the actual number of elements in here, we would have to add 1 onto the highest um, element number. And then, of course, since this is an integer, we have to convert it into a string to display it on the label. So let's go ahead and run this, debug, and let's go ahead and start debugging. And when we run this, when we click the button, the first label is going to use the length property, and it says it's 6, so the length of this array is 6. On the second one, it get upper bound or get the highest element value. And since a computer starts counting with 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will return the value 5, add 1 onto that, and it will be 6. Okay, so that's a little bit about arrays. That'll do it.